middle-aged. So, where's the port? And I don't mean the line. As educators, it's our job to figure out where and how we plug into this culture, into their data port. Fortunately for us, the fact that our students understand the technology makes it a little easier. But it doesn't make them experts any more than understanding how to use a typewriter makes somebody a writer. Anybody here remember WordStar? Or WordPerfect? I remember when word processors first came out, everyone who got one, it seemed like everybody who got a word processor said, I'm a writer. Does anybody else remember that phenomenon? Well, I'm struck by the similarities today. I now hear students say, hey, I'm a filmmaker. Well, a camera and editing software, that's a good start. It's also a real good sign and a real good place to start a conversation with your students. We can challenge these kids to really become that filmmaker they profess to be by revealing the hidden secrets of filmmaking to them. The fact that many of them know the software inside and out before they get to our class is a plus. Just don't shoot them down. Uh-oh. How many people have had this happen to them in their classroom? Nobody? Am I the only guy where the technology failed? I've got one person back here. Technological challenges. How do we deal with these in class? Does anybody have any thoughts? How do you guys deal with this when this happens in class? When you're rolling along and the computer suddenly stops? Yeah.
Well, I teach computers, so you were just saying that we turn it into a learning moment. So, okay, so what could have caused this? This is how we go through and fix it. I don't know if that would be relevant in all classes, but that's what I do.
Yeah. Does anybody else here teach media? Okay. Yeah. What about you? Has media, have the computers ever failed you? Do you turn it into a learning moment as well?
Well, that's what I was talking about. It's a learning moment.
Yeah.
The technology usually, I test it before the class.
Yeah.
So, I usually don't use school equipment, I use personal equipment, so at least I know one sensor works, right? The stuff that I don't want to use, something got a cable, and so the trick is, always, before you start the class, always make sure all works.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. When you were out on the bleeding edge in media, especially with something like Final Cut Pro, Suite 2, or whatever the latest version is, and on the hottest hot box, and there's the move from the Motorola to the Intel, and there are any number of different things that we're mixing and mashing up, to use a student's term, in our lab, and it happens. Not horribly frequently, but frequently enough. And some kids can really be frustrated by it. And I certainly found that like you turn it into a learning moment. But beyond that, this is their chosen field. If they're deciding to become a video producer or a filmmaker of some sort, these kinds of technologies will always be moving. They'll always be a moving target. There's never going to be a moment where there's any island of stability, at least I don't think. And I encourage them to get used to that. Okay, this is going to be part of your job. And I think that seems to reframe it, and it's a good place to take that kind of an event into that kind of conversation. So now we're done with our technological interlude. We're going to talk about some kids over in Down Under, I think they call it. Camera phones. How many people have kids with phones that go off incessantly in class? And with cameras. I've got them taking pictures of the teacher. I think that the concept of running up to them with a model release form and saying, here, at least ask me to fill this out. I think we may be going past that moment. But capitalizing on the pervasive use of cell phones by today's kids, there's a school in Australia that decided to welcome them into the classroom. In this project, 12 and 13-year-old boarding school students were asked to construct a 2-minute video discussion of the school's mobile phone policy. I think I hear the seeds of dissent in that school. First, the students gathered the info on cell phone policy. Second, they wrote a narrative and put it to storyboard. Third, they shot the video using a cell phone. Then lastly, they edited it in Movie Maker. And finally, they showed and critiqued the finished production. And I really love this next quote. These first 2 stages saw normal student-teacher interaction. However, from here on, the teacher was playing catch-up. I love that one. The exercise was a success, and apparently the students decided to use parody to push for change. There's something about being that age, you know, between 12 and 15, 16, 17, where the sense of humor and the ability to kind of think complex thoughts in a humorous way, I don't know what it is, but they can be incredibly funny. And apparently, it must have been somewhat successful. Before this exercise, no cell phones were allowed on campus. Afterwards, the policy was changed. So it sounds to me like they did a very effective job of communicating their point of view in their film. Well, this is my little theory. In every lecture that I give, I try to come up with a new, incredible concept for how the universe works. So I have invented techno-immersion time dilation theory. That's just to make me sound smart. It goes something like, hand a kid a gadget, and through the process of techno-immersion, 1, time to an outside person observing a teenager, in this case parents or perhaps teachers, seems to slow down. And of course 2, while time to the inside observer, the teenager, seems to move at a normal rate. How many people have experienced that? They get just completely sucked in. I don't know whether if it's a new iPod or a new telephone or whatever it is, it's like this wall goes up and nothing in the universe exists except that device that that student is interacting with. So, of course, that begs the question. Well, stop the presses. I suspect no one here today is surprised by this study. How many people are surprised? How many people are not surprised? Okay, good. But what did floor me was what I found in a little bit further down in the study. These statistics. Yikes. Yikes, I thought. No wonder some of the students coming into my classes look like zombies. 44 plus hours a week. And actually that earlier study actually talks about how much they spent reading textbooks, and it was, or any kind of book, and it was an extremely small percentage. The study actually wasn't done or presented very well, so it was kind of hard for me to parse that number out. So. But it causes one to wonder, are the book and the manual antiquated if they're spending